Daredevil, Bullseye, the Target. Man, the potential this book had. Such a strong start to something. I mean, the timing was just perfect. Kevin Smith is on here writing this. Glenn Fabry, I mean, the guy that did the covers for Preacher, is doing the art. What can possibly go wrong? In 1998, Kevin Smith came on, teamed up with Joe Quesada, and did the Guardian Devil storyline. He did 8 issues of the Daredevil series and kind of brought Daredevil back into spotlight somewhat, as high as Daredevil kind of got, till Bendis would come along. People again knew who Daredevil was, to the point that he was getting a movie in 2003. So, in 2002, Kevin Smith is already working at Marvel doing the Spider-Man Black Cat, The Evil That Men Do. When he finished that up, he was going to take over Amazing Spider-Man. What could go wrong? Ever since he first appeared in Daredevil 131, Bullseye was a thorn in Daredevil's side. He did a lot of bad stuff, but that kind of climax when he killed Daredevil's girlfriend Elektra in Daredevil 181. But then, in the aforementioned Kevin Smith series, he also killed Karen Page. That is 2 girlfriends of Matt's that Bullseye has killed. And up to this point, there had not yet been a rematch between the 2 of them. So, a lot of stuff was building. Now, Bullseye was the villain in the Daredevil movie, obviously, seems like a good choice. So they wanted to get this out to coincide with that movie to capitalize on that. The only kicker is, at the time, Bendis was knee-deep in his amazing run on Daredevil. If you haven't read Bendis' run on Daredevil, you should really check it out, because it was amazing. Before Bendis became a bit of a hack, he was doing some really amazing stuff. He obviously wanted to lay the seeds for some great Bullseye stuff. He actually appeared very briefly in Bendis' Daredevil number 28. Like I said, laying the seeds for something that was going to be amazing. But along comes Mr. Hollywood Kevin Smith. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it's a big name. You get a big name, it becomes a big deal. Of course, who was editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics at the time? But Joe Quesada, who I believe is friends with Kevin Smith, or he certainly was. He did the art on Kevin Smith's Daredevil run. So, of course, he's the editor-in-chief. He's like, oh, Kevin Smith's my friend. He can do no wrong. So the stage is set. You've got a big Hollywood movie coming out later with Ben Affleck. You've got a big-name writer on board. You've got an amazing artist. And you've got the story that fans are awaiting right now. They want to see Daredevil versus Bullseye. So, as I said, it was rushed out. And they rushed this book out by Kevin Smith so that they could get to Bullseye before Bendis had a chance to do something with it. I think that's kind of shit. But the book opens right away. We see the amazing art. We've got Daredevil. He's out and he's talking about how, like, this is the one night he kind of doesn't like to go out because he has to go out and pay his respects to Karen Page. He goes and visits her grave, kind of revisits everything in his mind. And he says, like, anybody that crosses me on this night they kind of get all my frustration. And he beats the ever-living piss out of the owl. And then across town, we see a gentleman setting up meet with some not American people. Keep in mind, this is 2002, so some things are still fresh, if you know what I'm saying. 9/11. And these guys are talking about how they have to hire an assassin because they can't really operate as freely in the States without suspicion. And while they're waiting for this assassin to show up, the guy shows them the telescope across the street. And he's like, hey, look at this woman across the street. I've watched her. She used to have a different guy over here every weekend. But now she's got a baby and she's kind of, the men have stopped coming and she's really settled down. She's settled into the role of a mother and she's taking care of this child. Like, I've grown kind of accustomed to watching her. It's creepy as shit, but it's touching, but it's no. Anyway, the assassin shows up and it's Bullseye. Yes, we get to see some Bullseye action. They hand him a piece of paper and they're like, this is the target we want you to take out. And he's like, that's a pretty big target. In the not literal sense. He's an average sized person, but he's like a big target. So he agrees to do it for $20 million. And they're like, yeah, 20 million, no problem. But first you got to prove you're as good as you say you are. And he's like, okay, I am, but okay, how do I do that? And they're like, take a look through this telescope. He looks through the telescope and sees the woman across the street and they say, make that baby an orphan. He thinks about it for a second and doesn't completely look like Gollum. Like, sorry to derail here, but like, do you see a difference between this guy and Gollum? An amazing artist, just happened to look like Gollum. He says, okay. He takes out his toothpick and he flings his toothpick across the street through the window and kills the woman. I mean, Bullseye, he is deadly with absolutely anything. And they were like, holy man, you did that with just a toothpick? He's like, yeah, so don't worry. I'm going to kill your target. Don't worry about it. They ask him, like, don't you wear a costume? I'm an assassin. I try not to draw attention to myself. That, and they were trying to get some synergy between the movie because Colin Farrell wasn't wearing the costume. But he says, hey, if it'll please you, and then he dips his finger in some ash and he draws a bullseye on his forehead and said, will that make you happy? As I said, this is an amazing issue. It really set everything up. There's going to be a confrontation between Daredevil and Bullseye. He's going to get vengeance for, you know, everything that's pent up in him over the past year or two, having Karen taken from him like that. Who is the target? We don't know. So much good stuff. It's Kevin Smith. He's going to deliver. So, if you'll excuse me, I'm just going to sit back and wait for issue 2. It's not coming, is it? So yeah, something happened around that time. Here's the aforementioned Spider-Man Black Cat, The Evil That Men Do, the first 3 issues anyway. That's all I actually bought, because these issues stopped coming as well, right around the same time. Although these were actually finished in 2006. Terry and Rachel Dodson came back, Kevin Smith came back, and Kevin Smith, trying to defend himself, said, honestly, it's a better story having the back half written in 2006. I wouldn't have done as good a job in 2002. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. I didn't read them. I think it's a cautionary tale to any editor out there. If you're an editor of a major publisher and someone wants to pitch you a 4-issue miniseries, say, can I see 4 scripts, please? What happened, I guess, was Kevin Smith got tied up in writing Jersey Girl and filming Jersey Girl, the movie, which is a great movie. But because of that, he didn't get out his scripts. And because they rushed the first issue out. I think it's a cautionary tale, but at the same time, I want to know what was going to happen. And for years, Kevin Smith kind of said, yeah, no, we're going to do it. Yeah, we're going to do it. Even as recently as 2019, apparently Andy Kubert was going to come on and take over the art, and they were going to finish it. There are pictures of that art. It exists. I don't believe Marvel has officially acknowledged Daredevil Bullseye the Target for quite some time, but Kevin Smith does still bring it up periodically, as he's constantly questioned about it. He did officially reveal that the target in question was going to be Captain America. If we ever do get an issue 2, I don't know if that's still going to be the same, but that was the plan. I don't know. I don't understand what happened. I do understand Kevin Smith can be very busy, and I'm not going to say it's easy to sit down and write a comic, but if you do commit to something, I think you should at least try to follow it through. And that said, like, I work a full-time job, and I have a son, and I can still find time to do this, because I like doing it and I'm passionate about it. I am not a Hollywood producer. I am not a Hollywood director like Kevin Smith is. I feel there has to be enough time in a day. He has to have enough free time to have written this. Even back in 2002. He doesn't tell the fans that are waiting for it to screw off. Like, he is very apologetic about it, and he knows it's a mistake, and I feel like it still does weigh deeply on it. I bet to this day he thinks about it from time to time, and he wants to do it. But maybe Marvel's not willing to take a chance. DC certainly still gets him to do writing from time to time. He's actually working with Dark Horse to start his own creator-owned imprint over there. So, I mean, comic books are still in the forefront of his mind. He owns a comic store, for crying out loud. Because of this, Bendis would have to wait to use Bullseye. He eventually did just go ahead and use Bullseye in Daredevil number 48 and some issues from there, and it honestly was amazing. Looking back on my own consumption of media, I kind of think that Daredevil Bullseye the Target is the reason I don't start reading books or watching a TV series until it is well established. This and Drive. If there's anything to take away from this, I'd say it's just don't get blitzed by the big name if they don't have it on their plate to take care of it, you know? Stick with the writers that can establish and deliver. I know a big name will bring in more people. Just take a look at Spider-Man Bloodline. The whole thing was done just to get J.J. Abrams' name on a comic book, although he did it to get his son a writing credit. Is anybody really in the wrong there? No. I think it's trying to sell the story before you even know what the story is. And that happens a lot in Hollywood today. It's like, oh, we're going to make Black Panther movie. Oh, who's in it? Who's directing it? Who's doing the script? We don't know yet. We've just decided first we're doing a Black Panther movie. It's like, so if I went and met with Kevin Feige right now and I had an amazing script for Triathlon, would he even disregard it because it's Triathlon, even not looking that it's an amazing script? You know, or Stingray or some of these lesser characters? Or does DC just greenlight every Batman project? I don't know what I'm even trying to say. I guess I'm trying to say, look at content before looking at the creator or the character. You know what I mean? I'm not saying Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith has done some amazing work in comics. I just wish he finished them all. And to his credit, he does. It's just Daredevil the Target was unfinished, and I wanted it finished. Anyway, give me a like. I would appreciate it. Give me a subscribe. You know what I should have done? I should have cut this video off in the middle and not finished it. That would have been funny. But I got too much integrity for that? I don't know. I'm rambling. I ramble at the end of my videos. Bye.